Om Agyan Timidandasya Gyanangana Shalakaya Chaksulimeditam Jena Tasmai Srigurave Sri Chaitanya Mano Vishnam Shkapitam Jena Bhutale Shvayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Sthapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo. I thank Brahmananda Prabhu and Gargamuni Prabhu for giving me the opportunity to speak so early in this ceremony. There's a common saying in society that you can judge the greatness of a person by how many people, or even more important, who attend funeral or their memorial service. So as I look around here at this august assembly of Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, it's very apparent what a wonderful and great devotee Brahmananda Prabhu was, and he has certainly earned this epitaph which is on his samadhi. Indisputably the favorite son of His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We all have our personal stories of association with Brahmananda Prabhu. For me, I see him as my Vartmana Pradakshika Guru. Gargamuni Prabhu remembers that in 1970 I was working at the University of Michigan, in Michigan, Detroit, and I was wandering through the grounds and I came across a kirtan party of four very effulgent personalities, Vishnu Swami, Subal Swami, Gargamuni Swami at the time, and Brahmananda Swami. This is what it took to make me a devotee. I'm going to get to that. And I was just swept up with their love and their devotion to Srila Prabhupada more than anything else. Vishnu Swami was giving a talk to the students when we walked up. And then he asked for questions, and some of the students, it was an intellectual university, so they were arguing, but he defeated them one by one, and they all went away. And just myself and my former wife were standing there. So Vishnu Maharaj said, come, and I will tell you about my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. So we sat down, he spoke for about a half an hour. So he said, what do you think? And I said, he's also my spiritual master now. They were so potent, so powerful. So then Brahmananda was speaking with me, preaching to me, convincing me very quickly to become a devotee. And he said, now, do you know where we can stay tonight? So I said, well, we're staying in an apartment building that's going to be condemned soon, so just a few apartments. People are living in a few apartments. So there's an apartment next to us, you can stay there. So then Brahmananda Maharaj said to Vishnu Swami, this nice young couple has invited us to stay with them, so we stay there. And then Maharaj said, what do you think? And Brahmananda Maharaj said, well, if we can have a nice feast, some nice prasadam, we can stay with them. So I said, okay guys, excuse me for my language, but that's what. I said, God, let's go back to my apartment. On the way, Brahmananda looked at me and he said, so do you have any money? So I just got my paycheck, for working as a gardener at the university. I think it was around $450, $500. So I said, yeah. He said, give it to me. So he showed Gargamuni, and Gargamuni nodded their head. And so then Brahmananda said, sign the check. So I signed the check, and then they cashed it at the supermarket, and they spent every single penny of that paycheck on the boga for the feast they were going to cook at our apartment. Wow. And they cooked it, and I think Gargamuni was cooking, and Vishnu Maharaj was cooking, and Brahmananda Prabhu was waiting. And we sat down to take prasadam, and me and my former wife, we'd been on a fast for 20 days, because in those days, spiritual life meant fasting and meditating and everything. So I'm thinking, how am I going to eat this feast? So it's all cooked, it's offered, it's sitting down there, and I said, no, we're fasting. And Brahmananda Prabhu said, no, you're not. If you knew him, he could be very heavy. I sometimes remember him as, strong as a thunderbolt and soft like a rose. For myself, he was always very soft like a rose, but this one occasion, he just pulled me into Krishna consciousness. He said, no, you're going to eat. And I broke a fast, a 20-day fast with a huge feast. And I survived. As we were taking prasadam, I noticed that at the time it took me to eat one plate, he ate 5 plates. So in the end, he looked at me and said, this is Krishna consciousness. With Gargamuni's management and Subal's kind of observing everything, and Vishnu Jan's lectures, and Brahmananda's brotherly love, I became a devotee. So he's one of the persons who showed me the path to Krishna consciousness. I can honestly say I would not be here today without his and those other Prabhu's mercies. So this is why I've come to offer my gratitude to Brahmananda Prabhu. Through the years we would meet from time to time. A couple of years ago when I came here, I was asked, I came to the temple, and I came in just before the Bhagavatam class had started, and Brahmananda Prabhu was giving the class, and as I walked in, he said, oh, Indradyumna Swami has come. And he stood up, and he sat down on the floor, and he said, you give the class. So I was so embarrassed, because here's the person who made me a devotee, who convinced me to give up material life and take shelter of Srila Prabhupada. Although he was such a well-known personality and deserves so much respect, he showed genuine humility by stepping down and asking me to give the class. He was instructing us in so many ways. And another wonderful attribute that I remember about Brahmananda Prabhu is his deep love and deep affection for Srila Prabhupada. I think in all our minds this is what stands out probably most. And that was demonstrated that without exception, whenever Brahmananda Prabhu would give a class about his memories of Srila Prabhupada, inevitably sometime during the speaking he would cry. Tears would come to his eyes. And this, of course, we know is the perfection of Krishna consciousness, when we can feel some deeper emotion. And actually tears can come to the eyes, expressing our love for Hari, Guru, and Vaishnava. So as Brahmananda Prabhu would cry whenever he would speak about Srila Prabhupada, and it was never sentiment. It was based on deep realization of who Prabhupada was. It was based on the purification that he had achieved as a result of serving Prabhupada. They were genuine tears of spiritual love for Srila Prabhupada. In the same way, love is always reciprocal. It's never a one-way street, it's always reciprocal. It brings to mind a pastime of Srila Prabhupada when he was flying somewhere with one of his secretaries. I forget who the secretary was, he told me the story, but old age affects our memory. Prabhupada's secretary told me that he was flying with Srila Prabhupada somewhere in the world, and he was opening Srila Prabhupada's mail and reading it to Srila Prabhupada, as was the custom of the tradition. And one of the letters he opened was from Brahmananda Maharaj at the time, who was preaching in Africa, of all places. What a challenge to go to Africa and spread Krishna consciousness. But along with the instruction of the spiritual master comes the ability to fulfill it. So because he was such a surrendered soul to Srila Prabhupada, he was successful against all odds in Africa. Prabhupada understood this. And as Prabhupada's secretary was reading Brahmananda Prabhu's report about his preaching, the secretary told me Prabhupada started crying. tears. And at the end of the reading, he said, Brahmananda has done so much for me. He has sacrificed his very life for me. Prabhupada was crying. So this is love. And the love is demonstrated, the genuine symptoms are there. As Brahmananda cried out of love for Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada would cry out of love for his disciple. This gives us a glimpse of how deep is the relationship. So when he passed away, naturally in our community, devotees ask the question, where did he go? We can't speculate like that. But yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tiyachati anta kalera. Our next destination is determined by our consciousness at the moment of death. And no one can doubt where Brahmananda Prabhu's consciousness was when he passed away. It's where it always was. The lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. So wherever Srila Prabhupada is, whether he's continuing his preaching mission somewhere within this material world, or he's engaging in his Nitya Seva in the spiritual world, I have no doubt, and I'm sure none of you have any doubts, that's where Brahmananda Prabhu is. So our loss is their gain, as Bhargamuni Prabhu was saying. These ceremonies are simultaneously very emotionally difficult, but very joyful as well. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote that famous verse, which is on the Samadhi Mandir of Haridas Thakur in Puri. He reasons ill who says that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still and sound. A Vaishnav dies to live, and while living tries to spread the holy name around. So I'm convinced that Brahmananda Prabhu is with Srila Prabhupada. It can only be because that's where his heart always was. So that is very joyful. We miss his association. For so many years now, we've been coming to Vrindavan. We would always come to his talks in the evening over at the temple, and he'd recount about Srila Prabhupada. So we miss him, but we hope that we can become as qualified as he was, as wonderful a servant of our spiritual master as he was, have as much love for his spiritual master as he did, and capable of rendering incredible service, like Africa and pioneer preaching in New York, etc., etc. And I think we can truly give him another epitaph. This is one here, but I think for any ISKCON devotee, probably the most important title we can ever give a devotee, we can give it to Brahmananda Prabhu. He was definitely a Prabhupada man. Brahmananda Prabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, worldwide ISKCON.